how are you? Hi. We haven't met before, have we? When I was in Australia, I don't think so.
No, no, we haven't met yet. I think
Yeah.
we've crossed paths a few times, but never had the opportunity to meet.
Yeah. So first of all, congratulations on all your success in Australia. And
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I wore the turtleneck because it's winter for you, right? Or pretty close to it. So
Yeah, it's getting cold here. It's getting
yeah,
very cold.
it's still kind of cold here as well. So, so talk to us about what's going on in Australia. You guys have actually not, you guys have been able to weather the storm without having too many infections, right?
Yeah, we've actually had under 100 deaths overall. And the infection rate was relatively low in comparison to the rest of the world. And I just think that has to do with how isolated the country is in general. And the Prime Minister closed the borders relatively quickly. So I think that's been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
But I mean, in saying that, businesses are still struggling and everyone's had to close. Thankfully, we are starting to reopen.
So,
Um,
so tell us, when did Australia close the border?
I believe they closed the borders in the very first week of March.
So it
I'm
was
pretty
like,
sure.
and a lot of that had to do with the fact that you have a lot of Chinese that come over on holiday, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have a high intake of Chinese immigration as well, and Chinese coming on holidays. And they were really worried that the outbreak would be something like Italy or Iran. So they just closed the borders immediately, and they've even closed state borders. So we actually can't leave our states, in most
Wow.
parts of the country. And I think that has been a huge blessing, as annoying as it is, because I have salons in 3 different states. But it has been a blessing, and I think that has definitely controlled the spread of the virus.
Yeah. So have you
Yeah.
guys, so when did you have to, so you did have to actually close? When did you guys close, right after this all happened?
So the thing is, hair salons never actually had to close. So the Prime Minister implemented a rule that said the clients couldn't be in the salon for any longer than 30 minutes at one time, which rendered us like pretty much incapable of anyone doing their job, right? So we decided that night to close. I think that was around around the 8th of March or something like that. Um, and I made the decision that night to close the salons because I didn't want it was too hard. 30 minutes is just silly.
But like,
Um,
what would even be the point of 30 of a client being in for 30 minutes? Like, if you're going to be
well,
infected, you're infected already. That just doesn't even make any sense to me.
absolutely. In the 30-minute appointments, if you're doing one client per 4 hours, that's maybe 2 to 3 clients in a day. Then they
Exactly.
reduce that to 30-minute appointment, which is just then turned into 16 clients in one
Exactly.
day.
It just doesn't, there's no logic to that.
So they actually reversed that ruling the day after they announced
Okay.
it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which was frustrating. But we just decided to remain closed for the safety of our staff and our clients. And I mean, that was probably one of the most difficult decisions I've ever made because I have around 130 staff, 130 team
Wow.
members. And like, if cash flow isn't there, there's no money to pay anyone, right? And like, my team are everything to me. So we did make the decision to stay closed just for safety reasons. And then I had to send everyone down, which is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my whole life.
Yeah.
And we kept in contact with everyone to make sure that everyone was okay. And then we reopened when numbers started dropping, and when people started feeling a little bit more safe. But like in saying that, I don't know. I feel like Australia has had a different experience to the rest of the world, because it's even though businesses have had to close, it's still like I live in Bondi near the beach, and there are still people everywhere. Like
Yeah.
you go out in the street and you run into everyone, you know. So I feel like we've had a very different experience to the rest of the world.
Do you guys have to wear masks or no?
No, the government hasn't recommended that we do that. And most like what they're saying is the masks only work for approximately 20 minutes when you've worn them nonstop. And or the ones that we have access to anyway.
Okay.
And then they become wet, so germs can come out and get through. So we haven't had to wear masks.
And are there any social distancing rules in Australia?
Absolutely. So we have to stay 1.5 meters away from anyone.
So
So
that's
if we
like,
are,
That's like 5 feet, 5 to 6 feet.
Yeah, it's
Right?
around 5 feet.
5 feet. Okay.
And to open, like, we had to implement so many rules. We had to remove all magazines from the
Yeah.
tables. And I'm a huge fan of having magazines everywhere. We have to serve coffee or tea or even wine in paper cups that are disposable. So anything that's high touch had to be eliminated from the salon. We have to temperature test any client
You do?
who comes in. Yeah, absolutely. And if their temperature is over, I believe it's 37.2. If it's over that, like, we actually can't service them.
I wonder
Um,
what that is in the US, like probably 98, 99 or something, I would say. We'll have to check
I
it out.
think it sits around, yeah, 98, 99, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, and then, I mean, luckily we haven't had to turn anyone away with a high temperature yet. And then we have to have hand sanitizer at every station. We have to have hand sanitizer as soon as they walk in. Like the cleaning has been increased by tenfold. So
Yeah.
everything is just constantly being wiped down. A client comes in, the chair has to be wiped before they sit down. You know, we're using disposable gowns wherever we can so that we're
Thank
not
you,
having
Pamela.
to.
Wait, they're two different people are saying two different things. So Matt's saying 99.5 and Pamela's saying 98.6. So what did you say the Celsius was?
37.2.
37.2. So if somebody could check that out. Thank you guys so much for doing that for us. I love our members. They're awesome, right?
They're so good.
So so you guys have not then had to deal with changing. Okay, so you're saying that salons did not have to close, but you did.
Most salons in Australia did close.
Oh, they did close.
Yeah, they didn't have to, but they
didn't
chose
have
to for
to.
safety reasons. Yeah.
Okay, until you knew more about the virus and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Until the government gave us guidelines on how we can open safely. I mean, and you know, we can only operate at 40% capacity right now.
That was gonna be my question. Yeah, it was about your space. So your chairs, are you doing every other chair?
Yeah, exactly. So every other chair can be used. Which, I mean, most of my salons are 30+ chair salons. So, you know, we're lucky in the sense that we can fit people in. But I mean, to be honest, running at 40% capacity doesn't cover bills.
Yeah, the economics don't work, right? So that's one of the things that we've been talking about a lot in the United States is, you know, is especially, you know, better salons with a higher ticket have a much greater opportunity to be able to, you know, at least figure it out. But if you're a ticket that is under you know, $100 and you know, you're typically double booking and all of that for, you know, a medium level salon, the economics don't work. So like what, you know, we've been recommending is you're going to take your staff, right? And you're going to have to be open 7 days a week on alternating times to be able to get your staff to be able to come back to work, and then also to get your clients in. So that way you're operating on a huge amount of additional time, but that's the only way the economics can work, right?
Absolutely. So like we thought about opening 7 days so we were able to maximize on income. But, you know, like I said, we are lucky enough to have big spaces. So I made the decision not to open 7 days. We do have some people who, like, most of my staff are employed, and then we have like chair renters or booth renters. So they are allowed to work on the days we aren't normally open. So that freed up some space in the salons. But like, I really do feel for people who don't have the privilege of having big spaces, because I really don't know what I would do if I wasn't able to charge a high ticket price or have as many chairs as we do. I just don't know how. Like, that scares me, to be honest.
I think one of the things that scares me the most about that is, you know, so many hairdressers, you know, they're creative. They hate numbers, right? And to be a great salon owner, you have to embrace numbers, and you have to know numbers, right? So I think that one of the most complicated things is for hairdressers now to also start taking into account, you know, in the US, they have to wear masks. They have to have all the additional sanitation. The amount of additional expense on top of, you know, the extra 6 feet is, you know, I mean, my prediction, I hate saying this, but my prediction, I just did a state of the industry for all of our manufacturer partners that we're about to release. But, you know, I'm very concerned about, you know, 30–40% of salons going out of business because they can't make the economics work, and they can't last long enough until the country like actually gets back to where we're potentially non-coronavirus, you know, position. And I just don't, you know, I think the scariest thing for me is seeing salon owners, you know, just not be able to make the economics work, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. And one thing I would say, I'm not sure like how it works with suppliers and companies in the US, but here I have really been leaning on the brands that we buy, the companies that supply us, and seeing how they can help too. And the thing is, you don't know if you don't ask. So you don't know, like, you know, we use 7 different brands in the salon. So I reached out to all of them and said, okay, how can you help us? So we've helped you for the last 8 years by buying your product. How can you help us now? What can you do for us? Can you provide us with hand sanitizer? Can you provide us with masks? You know, can you put a hold on our invoices so we can keep ordering but not have to pay for it just yet?
Yeah.
And it's really important. Like, don't be afraid to ask those questions. It's like there's no shame in that at all. And you never know. Like, all of them has said yes. You know, they've given us masks if we want them, or they've given us loads and loads of hand sanitizer. And for a product
really?
that
Can
manufactures,
can you send some to the US? Nobody can get
yeah,
any up
totally.
here.
If for a product that for a company that manufactures their own product to create hand sanitizer, it costs nothing. Like, it costs probably 10 cents a bottle, and for them to give you 100 bottles, it's nothing.
Yeah.
So my advice is if there's things that you can't afford, ask for your suppliers to provide it to you. That's what I would do.
I know Virtue, that you work with Virtue, who is one of our clients that we just love. I know that one of the things right out of the gate that they were saying was, you know, that they were obviously going to delay, you know, then they were like right out of the gate talking about it, which is amazing. I know Melissa, I love her. I've known her. She was like one of my mentors going back,
I love Melissa.
Like literally 25 years ago. Like, we've known each other for a really long time. She was like the, you know, that, like, total, I don't know, badass, you know, like, you know, boss woman that I was like, that really was, for me, she was everything, because she just, you know, and her heart's always in the right place, and she's just so damn smart, you know, but her heart is there. And I think that, you know, sometimes you can be really smart and you can be super business focused, but I think Melissa's always had, like, she's always known that when you treat people the right way, like, that's how you build a business. You know, you don't do it by forgetting, like, all of a sudden, guess what? A crisis happens and all of a sudden it's like, oh, where is everybody? You know? I mean, one of the biggest complaints I suppose I have for companies sometimes is just, you know, like that, because I think they're all like, they're all doing things in their own way, for sure.
Of course.
But I'd love to see more of the money come into this industry instead of outside the industry. You know, that's the only thing that I wish that we would see more of, is instead of the Red Cross or whatever, like, you know, giving the money,
putting it back into the industry. I totally agree.
In different programs. But I know that some of, so in the US, we have like seriously struggled with hand sanitizer and masks. Nobody can find them anywhere. Yeah, you can't get them here. So
now we have oversupply of hand sanitizer. We have so much here.
Yeah. Like I said, send it over, because we don't have any in the United States. And in fact, all the rum companies, Bacardi is making hand sanitizer, like all of the big alcohol, like alcohol companies are the ones that are actually making the hand sanitizer right now.
Really?
So, yeah, because we can't get in the US market. So it's been really interesting. So talk to us about your guests. Like, obviously you guys have not had to deal with as much as probably the US is going to have to deal with as they're going back with masks and all that. How are you managing? Are your clients afraid when they're coming in? Are they, I mean, did you have any of your team that said, I don't feel comfortable coming back? Like, how did that all happen? Or how did you manage that?
I think the most important thing is, throughout this whole process, we not only kept in touch with our team, but also kept in touch with our clients. I think when there's like radio silence, that's when people start to freak out.
Yeah.
So we stayed in touch with our team. We use a communication app called River. And I do like video updates. So I film a video each week, give them an update, tell them where we're at, tell them what's happening, and everyone stays pretty calm and focused. I had like 3 employees who weren't comfortable coming back. One was pregnant, so I totally understand. And the other 2 just didn't feel safe. So it becomes a tricky balance of like being their boss and being understanding. So we kind of just said, okay, you have until the end of May to come back to work full time. At that point, like, you either have to come back or you just don't come back at all. And I know that might seem a little harsh to some people, but at the end of the day, we are in business and I don't want to go broke. I want to make sure that I can keep providing jobs to hairdressers for years to come. In terms of our clients, I can truly say, like, yes, there are some clients who don't feel comfortable coming in, but we have had an overwhelming response with new clients in particularly coming in, because we kept in touch with our clients via social media, via text message, via email, and we created awesome at-home hair care packs. For like, it was whatever type of hair you had, we had a pack for it.
Oh,
So
cool.
fine hair, thick hair, frizzy hair, copper hair, blonde hair, golden hair. And we really, really
Dry
marketed
shampoo
that.
hair? Dry
Dry
shampoo
shampoo,
hair?
yep, absolutely. Um, and what we did with that was we just looked at what our A-line products were. And our A-line range is Virtue, so that's an easy sell here for us. And we just created these packs and really pushed them out by text message marketing, by EDM marketing, and we just showed everyone how to use these products. And we made these cool IGTV series. They were really funny. And it was me and another stylist showing them how to use the products. And we made sure all of our clients got this information. And by doing that, and not only made our clients feel comfortable, but also like brought in a whole bunch of new clients, which is really awesome. So can't say that our clients are scared to come in. They know that we temperature test, that they can't bring anyone with them, that they're spaced out. So we make sure that they feel comfortable. And if at any time a client is in here and we can noticeably tell if someone is uncomfortable, we just do everything we can to make them feel at ease.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine, some people might have elderly parents or elderly grandparents who might be sick. So it's absolutely imperative that we make sure that they feel comfortable, because our space is so sterilized at the moment. And with temperature testing and hand sanitization, no one's coming in who's sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've been pretty lucky in terms of staff and clients feeling good about themselves coming in, which is cool.
The it's interesting because like I said, I just kind of did this state of the industry thing, just based on everything that we're seeing. And we also just did a survey. We've done 3 surveys. The last one had about 11,000 hairdressers that took it over a 2-day period of time. So that's the one that we're going to be reporting on soon. And what was interesting, so we have a little bit of a war going on in the United States right now. About half of the people half of them want to go back to work. The other half don't want to go back to work, and they don't want the first half to go back to work. So there is a bit of a war going on in the United States right now, which is because I'm not taking any sides, but I understand both sides, So what was really interesting is nobody knows, this is the first time I'm sharing this data, because I was just analyzing all the data last night. So I started like looking at age groups for everything. I started looking, and it was like, how desperate are you? Like, meaning you don't know where your food is coming from, versus like, I don't know where my rent is coming from. Because unfortunately in the United States, we have not, some states, like Canada's been great. They like gotten, but our country, a lot of states are still not even providing unemployment yet. Like they've been we have 40 million people in the United States without a job. So 40 million people, like there's never been numbers like that in history. So what was interesting is I was trying to find what the variances were between the people who wanted to go back to work and the ones who didn't. This was really interesting. Of the people who wanted to go back to work, I did an age group one to see if there was an age group. I did a salon owner one versus a stylist one. And then I also did one of anybody that had a client or a family member who had COVID versus didn't have COVID. So the ones that didn't have COVID, or that didn't know anybody that had it, which was 75%, 75% of the people that took it didn't know anybody. 76% didn't know anybody with the virus. Of those people, 76%, the exact same number, wanted to go back to work. Of the people that knew somebody that had it, only 26% wanted to go back to work. That was really interesting. Of the people that took it that were over the age of 45, 65% wanted to go back to work over the age of 45. Under the age of 30, almost 70% did not want to go back to work. Did not want to go back to work. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting to just sort of try to like see what all these differentials are, and to try to figure out what it's fear. It's, I think the biggest thing is complete lack of consistent information. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's absolutely. It's been inconsistent here as well because we have like other states in New South Wales. The media here has been consistent in New South Wales, but because of the other states all have different rules, then it becomes like cross messaging, and it's just like so inconsistent, and no one knows what's what. And I think the most important thing though, when people are deciding whether to go back or is like if they don't want to, what am I trying to say? Don't judge someone else for making a different decision than you, because you don't know
Yeah.
what they're going through, and until you're in their shoes, you won't ever know.
Yeah,
And
and I
I
think
live by that. You know, I
people are
think it's so
saying
important.
young ones are lazy. I don't think that's fair at all. Like I have a team of 35, mostly women, 31 women, 4 men, 3
Yeah,
men. And there, a lot of them are millennials and they bust their ass. They work really, really, really hard. I think that a
yeah,
lot of it is that they've never experienced anything like they haven't been through a recession. They haven't been through, and also, you know, if you're under the age of 30, like you haven't in many cases needed to figure out where you're going to get food from. Like you think everything's going to be okay. I remember
yeah.
thinking that at 9/11. I remember
Hmm.
thinking like, this can't happen in our country. Like we can't be bombed. And I remember this huge sense of like, how could this happen? And this sadness I had for a
Yeah,
long time, not realizing that our country was not immune to these kinds of terrible things that could happen to us. So I don't think it's about the youth. I think it's more about, oh my God, this is freaking scary.
yeah,
I've never had to deal with this before. And I think also young people have not had to deal with recessions as well. So they also
yeah.
don't realize that people have to eat. And so you've got Alice was arrested and put in jail for 7 days because she opened her
I
salon and
know.
she needed to
I
feed her
read that.
family. So, you know, so
It's crazy.
yeah. And I think everybody just needs to just back off of each other and just, you know, understand that everybody's got a different situation, you know?
Yeah, everyone really does have a different situation. And, you know, the majority of my workforce is under 30 and they are working their butts off.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. They haven't been through anything like anything at this
No.
magnitude before. So of course they're scared. But you know, if people take the time to explain and to make them feel good, I think that's what's most important here is like taking the time, even if you feel like you don't have the time, just take the time and make people feel good, especially your teams, and they'll have your back. They'll
Yeah.
do what they need to do for you. Everyone is just acting out of fear. It's a scary time. I wake up most days terrified of what might happen to my business. I spent the last 8 years building everything I have, and I'm terrified every day waking up thinking what will happen today.
Well, do
Um,
you have, I mean, we know, you know, it's a gloomy time here, other than the fact that I just keep saying to everybody, like, prepare, 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 you know, like
mhm.
you got to go back. Like it's time to like, not just keep saying, I don't want to go back, but it's time to start preparing when you do go back because COVID's going to be with
Mhm.
us for a while. So it's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be gone. Like you're going to go
No.
back to work. There's no question, and it will be there. So you're going to have to figure out when that time is right for you, but it's going to be there.
Yep.
So tell me about the risks that you feel like your business is still under. Like what are your concerns about it, knowing that you guys have definitely, you know, your government did a great thing,
Yeah.
shut down all the flights and everything. But tell me about the long-term potential effects that you're afraid of there.
So I guess as I said before, I have salons in 3 different states, and right now I'm not able to go to those salons. One of those salons
You
opened
can't
only
go?
last week. No, I can't go. And one of those salons only opened last week, and it's a 45 chair, beautiful big salon.
Wow.
And most of those staff haven't been like personally trained by me, and I like to train all of my team myself with my education team. So we're running a very, very big risk of opening that salon without making sure that everyone is trained the way they need to be. But like in terms of like long-term effects or what might happen long-term, so it's just a financial loss. Like, you know, we're being closed for a month, which is an enormous loss for us for 1 month. And then you have our landlords. Some landlords are being amazing and very helpful. Some are not, and you know, karma will bite them back.
I agree.
um, but you know, how if, for example, this salon I'm sitting in right now, our rent is around $20,000 a month, and that's a whole month that we haven't been able to pay any rent. But they're expecting that to be paid back at a later date. On what planet does anyone have an additional $20,000 lying around just to throw at a landlord? That's like the long-term effects of this, or long-term consequences, is having to pay back all of this money. So, you know, we've done our figures, and if we operate at 40%, like we're operating now, it'll take us around 9 months to pay all of our bills, essentially.
Wow.
But if the landlords expect us to repay them the rent while we're being closed, it'll take a lot longer. Like, I'm talking like at least 2 years.
Well, first of all, I don't know how you're not in a situation. Like, this is what I've said to everybody as well. Like, so what are they going to do? Throw you out? Who else is going to come in there? Like, in a terrible situation right now, it's not like, it's definitely, you know, a buyer's market, not a seller's. So I would think that they're going to, they're going to have to work with you, because it's not like they're going to have a big line out the door trying to get that space. I mean, everybody's struggling. You know what I mean? Everyone's struggling. So
yeah, and like these spaces, my salons are big, so no one's looking for giant spaces.
No.
So, you know, my advice to anyone who's struggling with landlords is just to keep pushing back, because I'm not going to pay them.
Yeah.
I don't have any money to pay them. So just push back and push hard. And understand, like, they're coming from a place of perhaps desperation, because they need that money too. So you both are in the same boat.
Yeah.
So, like, have compassion at the same time, but also look after your business.
Yeah. And I think that you're right. Like, if you can give them a little bit, but the point is that you got to push back, because, like I said, there's not going to be anybody knocking down their doors to get that space. So getting some, you know, making sure to keep you in business is a really smart thing for your landlords to do, is to make sure that you stay in business. And everybody needs to see that exactly that way. And I've been saying that in the US, where, you know, so many hairdressers like, but Mary, they're like really pushing. And I'm like, I don't care, push back. Like, what are they going to do? Throw you out? Like, who else is coming in? It's just not, they need you to stay healthy and in business. And that means that everybody's going to suffer, including them, for a little while. So I think
absolutely.
So tell me why why you think you'll be operating at 40%? Is it because of the space? Are you not going to open additional days or hours, or how are you adjusting, or how will you adjust for that 40%?
So with the using every second chair, with the figures that we've projected, and that's conservative, so it might be a little bit more, but I always, when I'm crunching numbers, it has to be conservative, so that you always come out on top. So, you know, we estimate that we might run at a 40% capacity, which, like, essentially what that does is it just comes short of covering costs. So we have the government is helping in terms of JobKeeper, which is essentially subsidizing people's salaries here. That helps, but it doesn't cover salaries. It covers around 70 to 80% of the salary. So, you know, I'm sure that we will be at more than 40% capacity. But the 40% is being very conservative. But I don't think I will open extra days, because we do have our online e-com site, and we're looking at other ways to bring in income that doesn't have as many overheads as a hair salon. You know, hair salons are so expensive to run. You've got product, you've got rent, you've got electricity, water, gas, you know. So we're looking. Right,
if the lights are on, I know that's the economics that don't work, is that if the lights are on and you're still taking 40% clients, it's still 100% of the cost for 40% of the clients. Yeah, it's exactly
totally
true. Yeah.
So yeah, we're trying to push, like, think of other ways to bring in income, whether that be partnering with brands, creating content for them, thinking outside the box and doing things you might not have normally done before. And, you know, if you are doing things that you might have not normally done before, that's okay, because we are in uncharted waters. And, you know, we are pushing so much into our e-commerce site, and we've increased those sales by 700%. And that happens essentially overnight, which is amazing. But now it's like, how do we maintain that income? So we're thinking of new ways to engage our audience.
How did you do that? Like, what did you do that caused that, since your salon was only closed a month?
So it was actually our IGTV series. And there was so many different things that we showed people how to do a 5-minute updo with wet hair, how to do a 5-minute updo before your video call, how to do your own wave at home. And, you know, that just boosted our sales so high, and we made them really, really funny. The one that did the best was actually, I had my digital content creator in the shower in a bikini, and I was explaining to her how to use the Virtue shampoo conditioner. And we made a pack together, which was $199 for, I think, 4 products. And that has done so well. It's been the most popular product online and the most expensive product we have. And that alone increased our sales by, I think, 300. No, it was actually just shampoo, conditioner, mask, and a leave-in.
Wow. Oh my
And it
God.
was just simply showing them how to use it properly. And it was as
Wow.
simple as that. And like it boosted our online sales incredibly. Like it was crazy. I mean, all you need is an iPhone. That's all you need, you know? And you can
So,
upload it
yeah.
onto Instagram.
So with social media for you guys, like how has I mean, obviously there's certain categories in Australia that have been really strong with social media. Obviously the US was, way out in front of most of the countries. Australia, you guys have gotten some, in fact, I was on with Natalie Ann because I was hosting Henkel's.
Yes.
We were both
I love
hosts for
her.
that. Yeah, for that Henkel event on Monday for the 24-hour stream. But how do you feel like a lot of people are really adopting Instagram in Australia? Is it growing like exponentially, or is it like where is it with hairdressers and with clients?
Yeah, I think Instagram is like the main social media platform that everyone is using, except for TikTok. I'm still figuring out how I can monetize that one.
Yeah, we are too. Yeah.
But yeah, Instagram is huge here. Everyone loves it. We love it. I love creating content for it. I film tutorials every week, and I just film whatever my followers want to see. And like that's the fun of my job now, just creating cool content for everyone to watch.
Yeah.
And clients love it too. Like anything that's interactive for them. I think it's so important now. The client experience is not just about the experience in the salon now. It's their experience of your brand outside the salon. And I think there should be more emphasis of their experience of your brand outside the salon. Because
Well,
they come in.
let's talk about that. I mean, can I
Yeah,
ask you how old you are? Because you look so young.
I'm 30.
You're 30. Okay, you're 30 years old.
Yeah.
And you own 8 salons.
Yeah. I started early.
Okay, so I just want to jump into business. Let's forget coronavirus because everybody wants to forget it for a while.
I'm cool with that.
Okay, cool. Because I think we all are just like, okay, we're over it. Like we've heard about it enough, and I can't watch another like whatever about it. So I want to know about you now. Like, so how did you get your start, and how the hell did you end up with 8 salons at the age of 30?
Yeah, so I moved to Sydney when I was just before my 16th birthday. I lived in a really small town. I ran away from home as fast as I could. And I got an apprenticeship, and that's fast forward 4 years. I was working in a hair salon and I was offered to buy into it. I could pay it off over a year. So I did that, agreed to it, didn't have a contract, fell through, lost all my savings. And then, I don't know, I had this innate like feeling in me that I was like, I can't let this beat me. I'm better than this and I deserve more. So I opened the very first Edwards & Co salon. I was in so much debt, like credit cards, like debt to people, debt to banks, everything. And this is the first salon I opened, one I'm sitting in right now. And that was nearly 8 years ago.
Wow.
I started that with a business partner, but I bought her out 3 months in. I developed, my vision developed. I didn't have it right away, but it developed over time. And she didn't share that. And I wanted to create this like grand experience for clients. And we charge a premium price,
Right.
probably the most premium in Australia. And I needed to create an experience that was like no other. So I bought her out with more debt. And I just
takes
use
money.
social
It
media.
takes money to make money, you know.
100%. And I just, I use social media to get my name out. I said yes to every opportunity. I did more free hair than I can ever imagine I would ever have had to do.
I want you just say that again, and I just say it for the people in the back of the room. Just say that again. You just did. Did what?
I did more free hair than I thought I would ever have to do.
Yes.
And I am proud that I did that. I'm really proud. And I think I opened my second salon 9 months after my first, and that was in Melbourne, so a different state. I built my clientele there off Twitter. I don't have Twitter anymore, but it worked then.
So how did you do that? Because the fact that you have 8, so how did you take How did you, are the cultures the same in all of your locations? Are they different?
Yeah.
They're all the same.
They're all the same.
How did you
It's
do
really
that
similar
though?
culture.
So, okay, so after 9 months, you have
Hmm.
how many people in salon number one?
I think I had 12.
So you were how old then?
I was 23.
So you had people, a lot of them older than you, probably working for you.
Oh, everyone was older than me. Yeah.
Okay, so I had the same situation because I started my first company when I was 22. So how
Yeah.
difficult was that for you to build a culture and then to have people that were older than you buy into that culture?
It was difficult. But it's about being persistent and consistent.
Yeah.
And then eventually people start to understand, all I wanted to do was create a beautiful space for people to come in and do beautiful hair. That was it, nothing more. And to have it, and to just work with people that you like.
Well, you have though amazing salons in Australia. So what was it? Where was your white space? Where was your space that you're like, okay, these guys have this and these guys have this and these guys. So where was your space that you're like, this is missing? I feel like this needs to be here.
So I guess my biggest key thing was I don't want my salon to feel like a salon. I want people to be able to come in here and relax like they're at a cafe or a restaurant, and just as a bonus, have their hair done too.
Okay,
Um,
that's cool.
and I personally think I've achieved that. Like all my staff are trained to make good coffee. So we serve coffee in beautiful handmade cups. We have a wine list that people can have if they'd like. So, when I say we charge a premium price, that's why. Because they get wine, they get coffee, they get tea. All of our teas are made by a naturopath. So it's all those small things that add up to that full experience that I believe no one else was offering in Australia just yet. And also the spaces, like most of my spaces are beautiful warehouses on the first floor.
I can
I don't
see.
rely on,
Yeah.
yeah, I can,
Yeah.
there's beautiful windows at the back there.
Yeah. It's gorgeous.
Um, and I just think, choosing the spaces has been a key element to the success of the brand. Because coming in here, I want every person to go, wow. And they do,
Yeah.
and I think that's really cool.
We have something called Restoration Hardware in the United States. I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but
Mm-mm.
it's very much the same way. Like, so it's an amazing, although the furniture used to be amazing, but now it's not as amazing. So they've really they've created these incredible experiences in these beautiful buildings. You have lunch there, you have wine there, you can walk around with wine and look at all this incredible, cool furniture. And it's very much like that space. My house, this is my log cabin. Like I have a big log cabin and
Oh, it's beautiful.
on a big lake out there. And, but this is my country house. But in my city
Yeah.
house, it's completely like modern, but like very warm, like comfortable modern, you know what I mean, in downtown Chicago. And so, yeah, it's the exact same kind of experience. You go, you have lunch, you walk around this beautiful place that looks very much like that. And then, and you buy furniture there. So it sort of like sets you up to have a
I love
certain
that.
feeling, right? Which is
Yeah,
very, very
absolutely.
cool. Look them up because I think you'll really, because it kind of reminds me of that feel. So then what about education in your salon then? Like,
Mm-hmm.
talk to me about how you were able to create the consistent experience for your guests.
So, in each salon, I have like an educator or a key educator. And it's up to them to make sure that everything's consistent. So each salon has an operations manager who's in charge of like general operations. Then we have a salon coordinator who's in charge of the schedule. And then we have a lead educator who's in charge of making sure that the quality of work is consistent, that just basically everything is consistent. So we have weekly meetings or weekly conference calls with them to check in. I make sure that I travel around to each location every 8 weeks. And that's one of my favorite things to do. I do clients in each of those locations. And,
Oh, you do?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
one thing this pandemic has made me understand is how much I love my clients and how much I love doing hair. I cut back a lot late last year, and I've gone back on the floor more now for financial reasons as well.
yeah.
But I really do love it. I just love doing good hair, and I love being with my team. And I just think making sure that I'm able to visit those salons, it took a little while to make sure it was consistent. And more recently, I've hired a COO to help me make it more consistent. And that's been a really vital part in making sure that like everything during the entire experience is consistent, from entry into the salon, from sitting at the table, from being served coffee to checking out to the follow-up phone call. Everything has a script and everything is consistent. And then, you know, we do random checks. I don't want to make it sound like, you know, we're micromanaging, but
Well,
we
you
do
have
random
to.
checks.
Yeah, you have to.
Well, you do.
There's a great book called Culture Code, and the guy that owns Shake Shack in the U.S. and he owns a whole bunch of restaurants in New York.
Yeah.
It's a great book for anybody. I've been recommending it a lot, and if you haven't read it, it's an awesome book. And that's like he was talking about trying to create consistency from the first restaurant to the second one, and then and actually he gave all of his money back that he got from the government for his loan from he gave it all back. But he was saying how difficult it is to create consistency in all the locations. And, you know, when you're not there and you can't, like, you know, it just takes that senior team to be so incredibly thoughtful. And it's amazing that you've been able to do that in those locations.
Yeah. And I think like one key thing that we do is I do tri-yearly management retreats, I call them. And that's when I get all of my salon managers and salon coordinators together in one space. We get guest speakers in, and I treat them and we have a great time. But it's also like to forecast the year ahead, go over what my expectations are, and to make sure that they believe in my vision. Because if someone doesn't believe in your vision, it takes one person to poison that, and then no one else does. And this is where you have to get a little bit harsh, a little bit cutthroat, and to just remove those people, because it takes one, and then one becomes two, two becomes four, and four becomes eight. So cut that one person out who doesn't believe in it, and you'll always have smooth sailing. And same goes for in salon teams. You know, you can't, one bad egg will become two bad eggs. So don't feel bad about making those decisions. I used to feel bad, but then I started believing in my vision, if that makes sense. And then I stopped feeling bad about it. You
literally took the words out of my mouth when I talk about culture, because I do a lot of discussion on culture. And it was the day that I made the decision that that the vision that I had was it was almost like and I remember saying this, it's on one of my videos on my Instagram, is like, you took the risk. It was your vision, your culture. And if they can't get behind that, then they need to leave. So like we always say, hire slow and fire fast. You know,
absolutely.
You got to hire slow to make sure that they believe in the vision, and you got to fire fast, because I always say, like, cancer spreads so fast in an organization. And like, I didn't get the memo. So like, I don't manipulate. So like, for me, it's just like, I'm kind of straight up. But boy, those people have the ability. I call them bottom feeders. Like, they wait till you're at the bottom, like with new staff and stuff like that. Yeah. And they go feed on you in the break room and other places. And they're really good. And, you know, they're really happy, because I always say, like, sit with the winners, because the conversation's different. The winners are never hanging out in the break room. The winners are never complaining. They're busy. You know, they're working, you know?
And one thing I always like to say as well, like, give them the opportunity to leave, you know? I always say to my team, if you like, I want you here, I want you all here, but if you don't want to be here anymore, that's okay too. I support you. I encourage you to go and do what you want to do. Because I think a lot of the time, those people who are like the bad eggs often are maybe too scared to leave or don't know where to go from here. And I think it's weird, because by empowering them to leave, it saves you from doing the work.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, you know, it's funny, because we have 35 people. My editorial director, if I said, I need you to get, maybe not today, but if I said, I need you to get on a plane and fly to Germany tomorrow, she would get on a plane and fly to Germany tomorrow. And she'd say, thank you so much for the opportunity. You know, and and so when you get like a senior team that is part of that, and they believe in that, and they know how much they're helping, and they love the fact that when you can build a dream that's big enough for other people to live their dream in it,
100%.
Where it gets so
that's
powerful.
Everything.
You know, it really is. Yeah. And so when if you are consistent, and just what you said is just so true. It's having the vision, it's sharing it, it's being consistent as well. Yeah. Like, and being there. You can't be a great manager if you're just never around, if you're just never, you know, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
do as I say, but not as I do. Like
Absolutely.
you can't do that, you know?
Yeah.
So how does it work in Australia? Are you guys commission-based salons? Are people like, how does that all work?
So we do at Edwards & Co. We do it two different ways. So predominantly we have employees. So they're on a base salary, a weekly base salary plus commission. So for example, their base salary could be $1,000 per week before tax. And then their target would be around 3,800 to 4,200, depending on what their pricing is in Salon. Then after they hit that target, they then get 20% of anything they make. So the benefits of being an employee at Edwards & Co, you get a gym membership after 1 year, you get 5 weeks paid annual leave.
Wow.
You get exclusive retail benefits with our partner brands. So, you know, we've built a really good foundation for employees. You get unlimited education internally and externally. And we pride ourselves on career development. So making sure that each stylist is growing in the direction that they want to grow. And then we also have freelancers. You guys might call them booth renters.
Yeah.
So it's a little difficult how that's working in Australia because laws have changed in the last few years. So initially, with that, like all the money would come to us and then we would pay them their direct commission, or they would just pay us a day rate. I don't do day rates anymore because my salons cost too much money and it doesn't cover any costs. So it's not scalable for me.
Yeah.
So the freelancers here now, to make it legal, they have to actually receive all the money first, and then I invoice them for my commission, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes sense.
That's how it can work legally here. I mean, that presents itself with a few problems because we've had people in the past who haven't paid their invoices, and then we've been left, you know, we haven't gotten our commission. So, you know, I think it's really important for salon owners to do what works for you. Don't do what other salons do just because they do it. Do what works for you and makes you profitable. But, you know, we don't take on many new freelancers anymore. We will maintain predominantly employees because that works for us. And I believe I can create a stronger culture that way.
Yeah.
However, I think there is opportunity in Australia to create freelance only or booth rent only salons because there's only 2 or 3 here.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that, is if you're seeing, because that's probably taken over maybe 30 to 40% of our market in the US.
Yeah.
And in some areas, it's probably 60, 70, 80%. But what about for you guys? Is suite rental, is that like, that's the nice name that we now call it instead of booth rental, it's suite rental?
Yeah.
Are you guys, and of course, because of COVID, that presents like really good opportunities for people, you know, for guests that feel like they just want to go, you know, to a place that has fewer people moving around. But do you guys have a lot of suite rental in Australia? No, really?
So what we have a lot of is people opening really small shops, 1 or 2 chair salons. So we have a lot of that. In terms of like suite rentals, there's only like that I know of 8 locations that do that around Australia. I'm sure there are more, but it's not very common here yet. I believe it will become more common, especially due to COVID. And, you know, I guess my thing around that is if you open booth or suite rentals in major cities like Sydney or Melbourne, your rent is enormously high, like enormous. So what I struggle to, I'm not yet understanding how they can become profitable or scalable. So you rent that booth out or that suite out for, you know, whatever percentage of the rent it is. But how do you increase that every year to make sure that you're making like 10 to 30% more profit every year? I'm still figuring that out.
I love your brain. Like, I really love the way that you think because, you know, it's sort of like, and I totally agree with that. It's like, you have to try to figure out how to scale things versus just that pure amount of money. Like, so let's say that you are in the rental business, that's all you're going to get. And you can't scale it beyond that, you know? So exactly.
Totally.
So you
know
exactly. Exactly. Because you want to be able to build that space and then be able to scale on, you know, every other possible thing. You know, you want to take that customer, that client, and figure out how you can sell them as much as you possibly can, right? Because you know, in a sense of like providing them whatever services that you can that work for your brand, you know?
Yeah, and like I have thought of one way where it could become profitable and scalable for suite renters. That would require significant investment, because I thought if I could create my own retail, like have my own brands,
Yeah.
that means my profit margin is a lot higher.
Yeah.
Like a lot higher.
Yeah.
And then, you know, get a good deal with a color supplier to make sure that, you know, your margin in that is high as well. And then have the suite renters buy retail and color from you.
Yeah.
That's the only way I see it being scalable. So
Yeah.
until I figure out, and which, you know, that would require a lot of investment, which I
Well,
don't
a
have
lot of
right now,
investment,
you
and
know?
then a lot of, I mean, that's, they like the suite renters are sort of done that, but you're right. Like they don't show up in huge expensive places in terms of real estate in the US markets. But they have definitely moved across the US in a pretty powerful way. It's interesting though, like when we have to change our business models. And the one thing that I think is like really important, and I'm sure that you see it this way too, it's a scary time that we're like living in. But you also, you know, innovation comes out of crises. It always does. Like that's the highest level of innovation, comes out of these types of, you know, there's never been anything like this, but out of recessions. And like the day spa market collapsed in 2008 here in the United States, and all of them went out of business. And then something called massage envy came out of nowhere, and massage therapists that were only doing like a couple of hours at a day spa during the week ended up getting a full-time job, you know, at Massage Envy, making half the amount of money on an hourly basis, but being full 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. So in the US, it took massage from being a luxury to a place where everyone could afford it. And then massage therapists had a full-time job. So we're making way more money. We had, you know, we lost $3 million of business in the first 4 weeks of COVID, from all of our manufacturers that do business with us.
Wow.
And and I mean, we're, you know, we fully anticipated it. A lot of them are still moving forward. A lot of them now that things are starting back up. But we also had to go, how are we going to, you know, make shifts and stuff? So we have btcuniversity.com, which has been our online education portal. So we were doing, you know, we had individual classes that were $24.95 from great hairdressers all over the world, the Chris Appleton, like from all over the world. And we were, you know, doing 6 figures a month with that. And then all of a sudden this happened, and we're like, shit, you know, we've been talking about doing a subscription, but then we're like, this is a huge risk for us. You know, if we do it, then we ultimately ended up doing it and creating a BTC binge subscription for 3 days are free. And then they get $1,500 of education, like literally for $1 a day. And it's a lifesaver for hairdressers not to binge out on Netflix, but it's been, I mean, we've had, you know, a couple thousand people have signed up. So it was a good risk to take, and we get to add value during COVID for people to do that and not have to spend, you know, a lot of money. So it's, and I know we've had a ton of people from Australia that have signed up for it. You know, it's we love it, the BTCU binge, but it's at btcuniversity.com, and it's been like it's been an area that we've been really focusing on. But I think that we're going to see a lot of education online, even in schools. Cosmetology schools have been online now. You know, it's like, I think we're going to see, because habits are 21 days. I think that we've all been living at home. And so what are those habits going to be for all of us? You know, how's that going to change our lives?
Yeah. And I think that, like, you know, I feel like we've been floating on a like precipice of digitalism for quite some time. And this has kind of pushed us over the edge. So we've had to pivot as well and like bring a lot of our stuff digital. A lot of our education for my team will be online now. Because we thought about it before. Is it possible? Can we build it? So we made the decision to do it, and all of our internal education will be through online classes. And they'll have to sign off on that, which is awesome. You know, and like we were able to hire a web designer and web developer to build that, because it's much more affordable to bring someone in-house than to get an agency to do it. And same with I had sold hundreds of tickets to my workshops through the US that I have now had to refund, all my face-to-face workshops, it sucks, but that's okay. Because it's presented with an opportunity of like, okay, well, I have this awesome database now of thousands of hairstylists. How do I market to them? How do I be there for them? And I think it's also important to recognize that sometimes the reward isn't always money. It could just be satisfaction that you're there for your team, for your database, whatever it might be.
You know,
does that make sense?
we gotta play the long game, because that's what we're here for, the long game. I want to keep talking to you. It's telling us it's gonna cut us off in a minute. Do you have some more time that we can chat and I'll come back on again?
Yeah, absolutely. Can I have a bathroom break?
You take a bathroom break. You guys, we're going to be back in just a minute. And this is so much fun. I'm loving it. I'm learning so much. So we'll be back in just a second. You take a bathroom break, get a drink. Or no, it's morning for you. I'm going to get a drink. And I'll see you guys back in just a second. And for the woman that just asked, it's a $29.95 a month after the three free days, you guys. So btcuniversity.com. So no, you don't have to pay. You're paying on a monthly basis. So there you go. We're going to see you guys back in just a second. So we were just talking to Jay Edwards from Australia, and he's just 8 salons, 30 years old, 8 salons, some of the top salons, highest price point in Australia. Truly incredible. And he's giving us all kinds of great information about running salons. And I think we're so tired of COVID that it's running salons, and some great ideas. So he's done such a great job. So he's coming with us right now. He's telling us all about his salons. Hi.
Hi.
Again. That hour went by so fast, I can't even believe it.
I know.
It was like, that was like, wow. So let's talk. So we're just talking about digital again. So so tell me about what you're thinking about digital, and because I'm so fascinated by this 21 days that we've had now of well, hello, for us, it's been 6 weeks, 7 weeks. So habits, 21 days. What have we habitually learned now, you know? And so what are you guys, what are you feeling about habits and about digital?
I mean, I guess it goes back to what I said before about like the client experience doesn't end when they leave the salon. It continues long after that, right? So we are really utilizing social media to make sure that that client experience keeps on going after they leave the salon, so that they can keep feeling what they felt while they're here, while they watch our Instagram, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, there's that old saying of someone will always remember how you made them feel. And we want to keep that feeling going after they leave the salon. So that was our, like, you know, that was our idea behind the IGTV series that we did, was to make them feel something. And we're going to continue with that IGTV, not the same series, but different series. And then, you know, it's also how you engage with your team. I can't be with my team in like Victoria or Queensland. So I'm making sure that I engage with them, you know, once a week, just on digital, on a video or a live chat. And even the education that I need to provide them, they can just tell me what they want to learn. And then we create the content to teach them that.
I'm putting our names up here. So, but who's asking you which content? You said that my team. So the education for my team. So it's up to the lead educator at each location to inform us on what they need to be taught, or what they need to be refreshed on. And then we create the content, whether that be a live stream education day, or we pre-film it and they can just watch it whenever they want, which is really cool. I'm lucky enough to have a boyfriend who is a videographer. So he films all of our content and our live streams too. Oh, Jay, your Instagram, because I'm just putting your name, I'm just pinning. What's your Instagram? JAYE _ Edwards. Okay. I'm just putting that. You got that, huh? Okay.
I did, thankfully.
I'm going to try to tag it. Hopefully this will work, or pin it, I guess they call it, right? So your boyfriend he's a videographer. Okay, we got a pin.
Yes.
That's
thankfully
cool. So that's cool. That's friends with benefits, right? Boyfriend with benefits.
Absolutely. Like videographers are so expensive in Australia. Like you'd be looking at $3,000 to $4,000 a day for like, you know, a full pre-filmed tutorial. Lucky enough, he just takes his weekly salary and creates as much content as I need.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So like, I guess you guys can't break up, right?
I know, not even if we wanted to, unfortunately.
What? Just,
not even if we wanted to.
that's funny. You're like, okay, that's like good job security and life security, I suppose. That
Totally.
works. So, like, tell us about, are you guys taking pictures of all of your clients? Are you, okay. So how do you do that? Like, do you choose certain clients? Do you do them all? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So we started taking photos just purely for social media purposes. And then the bigger we got, the more, difficult clients we got. Because there can be difficult clients at times. Or people who say they wanted one thing, got what they wanted, and then all of a sudden want something different. So now it's our policy to take before and after photos of every client who comes in our doors. And, we've made it our initiative as well to be more versatile with what we post on social media. Because if you go to our account right now, everything is, young, pretty, long-haired girls, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine, whatever. But that's not something we want to keep going. We want to become very, very versatile. Female, male, long, short, all different ages, everything, And, every time we start doing that, engagement goes down. I don't know why, but it bloody does. Well, and it's so annoying.
But it does because it does because people, we just did a 10-hour social climbing show, like it was called Social Climbing, on Monday of last week. And one of the things that it was supposed to be 7 hours, it turned into 10 hours. We figured nobody had to get on a plane. So, and it was everything you need to know to learn on Instagram, that you need to learn to be strong on Instagram. One of the most important things about that is you've got to keep posting the same, that's what they're following you for. So that's why your engagement is going down. So it's really, that's why I always ask people like how they manage that situation with salons, because, not every client, is gorgeous, young, and, so unless they're in LA and Beverly Hills, right? So
I think with the content though, like for us, engagement is important. Yes, absolutely. But what's more important? Is it the engagement or the clients you get from that post that wasn't as engaged as others? So what we try and measure is we post, a photo of a beautiful blonde, pretty girl. Great. Lots of clients, lots of engagement. Then we post a different photo of that looks completely different. And then it's like, okay, how many clients have come in from that photo? And what we're finding is we're getting a whole new clientele.
Oh.
The engagement is lower. Absolutely. But we're getting new clients based on the photos that don't have as high engagement.
Perfect. Okay,
which is awesome. Cool.
So
I think, I just think it's important for people not to get so caught up in the engagement and like really try and measure how many people are coming into the salon from the posts that aren't as highly engaged. Because for us, that's working. And we're getting more new clients based on the photos that aren't as engaged.
You know what? I love that, because I'll tell you what, because Behind the Chair is Behind the Chair, we post so many different types of hair every day, right? So there are different types of hair that don't get as much, balayage always does really well. But what I think is really interesting is like natural texture. When we were doing natural texture for a period of time in the very beginning, it wasn't doing as well. And now it's doing like really, really well. But the interesting thing is like when we would post that for our clients, so a lot of times those were client posts. We posted for the clients, they would do so incredibly well for the client. So it's exactly what you're talking about, that it doesn't matter if the engagement is lower, it matters whether you achieved your goal.
Totally. Yeah, and goal is bums on seats.
That's so smart. How did you know that it did that? Like, how did you assess that that's actually what happened? Were you trying, like, is there a certain way that you evaluate from the time that you post something to new clients potentially contacting you?
Yeah, so I mean, again, in the last couple of years, we started using agencies to track that stuff. In the beginning, we couldn't do it. We couldn't afford to do it. So now we use agencies to track inquiries from different posts and that type of thing. And I'm not an expert in any of this. I don't know how they do it. But, I wanted to understand if we put this content out there, what's the conversion rate? What's the money we're making from it? If we pay Facebook to push these ads out there with this content, is there a return or is it a waste of money?
It's the best thing. It's the best money you can ever spend.
100%, because there will always be a return. It's just like, you know, our average return is times 6 right at the moment, which isn't that high. 3 years ago, it was like times 15, and our goal is to get it back up to that. And you know, it's lower now because we've been open for a long time, and we have, you know, we're diluting the market, I guess, because there's 8 locations now. But you know, our goal is to get it back up to 15, and that's going to be through content that isn't as engaging. That's my opinion. You have to create new content that you haven't created before for more people to eventually engage in it. And that will give us a bigger ROI. That's my view on it anyway.
You're so damn smart. Like, this is so great. I'm like, okay. So talking about that, if you were to describe your brand with a brand, like, you know, a brand that we all know, like a fashion brand, what would it be?
That's a great question, because when I'm explaining to my staff who I want to be, I always say Louis Vuitton and Balenciaga, or a brother and sister of both. Okay. Because we're not like one or the other. We're kind of in between that market, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you know, when I'm training a new team, I always like to take them into Balenciaga or Louis Vuitton and show them the experience that they get when we're going to spending that type of money.
But Louis Vuitton is so, it's like, that's such a classic brand. Like, yes. Classic as in like classic, is that because the salon that you're sitting in right here does not look like classic. So when you talk about that brand, are you talking about consistency, longevity? Like, when you try to define yourself around that, we're getting very marketing-y, but I love this.
So I guess that's why I say, like, there's Louis Vuitton and Balenciaga, and it's something in between. Okay. Because, you know, if we're just talking about Louis Vuitton, we're not really anything like Louis Vuitton. But as a brand, they have such longevity in the market. Yes. And everyone loves them, right? Yes. So that's what we aspire to be like, right? Then you have Balenciaga, who's constantly changing, constantly adapting, going with the market, you know, and making sure that they're always delivering what people want. That's the other thing we aspire for. And then when you meet in between, you have a classic, long-lasting, adaptable brand that pivots when the market needs it to, you know. And that's what I believe in, and that's what I, you know, think that we do really, really well. And I think it's important, you know, in Australia, I believe hair industry is seen as a lower form of, you know, work choice, I guess. And it's always been my goal to increase or make better how people view that industry. Because when people ask me, what do I do for work? I don't say I'm a hairstylist. I say I'm in the business of transformations, and I own a few businesses. And I think it's really important. Don't ever say you're just a hairstylist. Never just anything. You're in the business of transforming people, not only how they look, but how they feel about themselves too. And that's why you should never think of your hair salon just as a hair salon. You know, it's so much more than that. It's a place where people come to feel safe and to feel beautiful and to be appreciated. Well,
I think COVID is showing all of these people who are getting their hair cut on TV why it's so important, like why their hairdresser is so valuable too. Like, it's one of those things that, you know, and in the US, it's really making people mad because they're getting their hair cut, but they can't open their salon. But I agree with you. And it's still, now we've had, I feel like we continue to elevate all the time in the US, and social media has had a big impact. Chris Appleton, Amadeer, and like all of the guys that are really building, you know, and I think we owe a lot of that to Kim Kardashian, because, you know, she opened the door. I remember Frederick Fakai. A lot of the young ones may not even know Frederick's name, but I remember when Frederick, I interviewed him maybe 15 or 16 years ago. I just saw him in where were we at? Paris, or I don't remember where we were. I just had lunch with him maybe 6 months ago, and I'm trying to remember where it was. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I remember when he said, actually, he didn't say it. Somebody else did, but they named him and said that he was the first person where a hairdresser was not walking through the back door of a party, but walking into the front door of a party. Yeah, and I thought that was really, really interesting. You know, Jen Atkin walked through the front door of a party, you know, now. Yeah. So I feel like hairdressing is definitely gotten an elevated feel.
Absolutely.
I mean, because of hairdressers being willing to share their, because celebrities being willing to share their hairdressers on social media. And that's been super helpful, I feel like, for, you know, for hairdressers to have that elevated. But, but it's still a huge problem. There, I mean, you know, you see, we're still cutting hair for $6 or $8 all the way up to $1,000. You know, I don't know if you guys are the same.
We do that as well. It's like, it's such a, there's two problems to that. There's the stylists who are charging that, and there's the people who are paying it. That's the, you know what I mean? And I just think, you know, hairdressing is one of the lowest paid industries in Australia, but also one of the biggest industries in Australia. So my goal is to help elevate that so we're not in that lowest bracket, and so that people, like, you know, pay more for hair, and hair salons and hairdressers stop charging such little for hair. Because at the end of the day, hair is a luxury service, and it is not a service that everyone can afford, and that is okay. And there will always be different prices, and that's okay too. But if we keep charging those extremely low prices in countries where we don't have to, then we will always, that elevation will always get stuck.
So tell us what your average, like, what's your haircut price, and what's a traditional, like, what's one of your senior stylist haircut prices?
So my haircut price is 200 Australian, and then a color price would be anywhere from 550 to 750 with me. And then a haircut price with a senior stylist would be 100 to 150, and a color with a senior stylist would sit around 450 to 550.
So your Australian dollar is how much? What is that compared to our US dollar?
I think it's 65 cents right now. It's pretty low.
Yours 65 to our dollar?
Yes, I believe so.
Right. Because you guys are like, your food is the most expensive food in the world. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I remember going there and like how expensive it was to be in Australia. It was so unbelievably expensive. So then your price point. So what is a good salon's price point in Australia?
You'd be looking to pay like $350, $450 for a full all-round color and cut service at a good salon.
See my deer? It's out in the woods.
Oh, I love it.
I don't see any people. I just see deer.
And then like for like a standard price salon, you'd be looking at $250 to $350. But there are a lot of salons who still don't charge what they should. Like, some salons do incredible work and it's charging $250. And I know that might seem like a lot to a lot of people, and that's cool, but it takes years to learn how to do beautiful hair, a long time. And it takes like energy and like finesse and like artistic right and all that kind of stuff. And I just think people should be charging what they, you know, what a luxury service should be.
Well, you guys, I mean, I always say this, and, you know, and then I always like get mad at myself for saying it. But I'm going to say it again because I have had a half of a drink. Australian on a per capita, you guys are by far the best hairdressers in the world. You are.
Yeah.
Like, and you guys
we have a lot of great hairstylists.
I don't even know that you like know that, because, you know, it's so funny because Anthony Mascolo and Antoinette Beaners are such close friends of mine, and Errol Douglas. And I remember going down with Antoinette Beaners brought me down, and we did this whole thing for Aveda, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. And then they invited me to give away an award during the Australian Hairdressing Awards.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and I just remember like everybody telling me that nobody ever claps in Australia. Like, ever.
Really?
Like, everybody's just like sits there and it's like, just show me what you got kind of thing. And that every hairdresser that comes from, even the best hairdressers in the world from the UK, are terrified to come on your stages because you're so good. You're just so good there.
I did not know that.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes.
No, I mean, like, are people scared to go on our stages?
You guys are you kidding? I mean, honestly, they shake more going on your stage than any other stage in the world. Is all the Australian stages. They always do. Because they just know how good the hairdressers are so good there. And I see you're doing the same thing. Like, you don't even know how good you guys are the best per capita in the world. Every time I talk about photography, I'm always like, look at the photography in Australia because it's so editorial. It's real. You're not photoshopping to look like aliens. Like
Yeah.
it's just so good. You know, even all the avant-garde work is like so tasteful and it's just beautiful. You know, and I know that takes, you know, Andrew O'Toole's, you know, he's a genius. Like,
Oh,
but
he's so
it
good
takes,
though.
he's,
My
he's a
God.
genius. But it takes great hairdressers to be able to you know, and the taste level you
Totally.
guys have in Australia is incredible. It just really, it really is. And you guys are always changing. And that's the thing that I love so much. Australian hairdressers, for everybody that's watching, always go look at the Australian hairdressers. Like, go look at the award winners, because the other thing that we feel strongly about for One Shot is, like, people always, you notice how every year people for different competitions, they go and try to create the work that was done the year before.
Oh, I
You know, because
know.
they think that that's what's going to win.
I know.
And I'm just like, guess what? That was last year's work. The trends have
Yes.
changed. Like, we're going to pick totally different finalists
Yeah.
than what we did last year. And you guys, I feel like, do that. I feel like you guys are constantly updating your work all the time.
Yeah. I know that I every time I enter a competition, I never look at what won last year. That's
No.
like, that's your key to failing, not winning.
Yeah.
Forget who won last year.
Well, it's just not creative, is it? It's just not creative. It's like, you've got to push yourself. I mean, even British has been all over the place, right? Because, like, you look at, like, you've got classic work. I'm not going to say who that is. And then you've got, like, super editorial, like super fashion, like Eugene coming in with, like, his completely different, you know, from Fashion Week and everything, which I loved. It felt very Julian from Julian, what the hell is his name? Julian Dees. Like, I felt like it was very Julian Dees. Like, and I mean, they're all brilliant, but, like, there was so black and white, very minimalist. It was so different in British this year. And I'm actually really, really glad that it was so different, because it means that we're going to keep moving somewhere else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it
absolutely.
can't stay the same. And I think that's important. I really do. What do you think about competitions?
I think, okay, so if you had have asked me that maybe 5 years ago, I would have had a different answer. I think that there has been too much emphasis placed on people's editorial expertise, which I think is absolutely vital to the elevation of our industry. Absolutely. But what about those stylists who don't do editorial? What about those stylists who are just, what about those stylists who are just incredible colorists, who have no idea how to do editorial hair? Like, I do great hair color, but I don't know how to do editorial hair. I wouldn't have a clue, you know? And I think that's always been my goal, to have myself noticed for what I do and not what I could do. You know, and I think...
You know, you guys are, like, in the U.S., we were living in the world where Instagram hair was not respected for a really long time. And so, you know, people would go through, like, and so you'd have, and I think the UK has kind of gone through that. And now the commercial hairdressers are really starting to, you know, succeed. And then the exact same thing is happening, obviously, in Australia right now as well. So you guys are having major success there.
Yeah, and, like, for you behind the chair, like, you guys have been pivotal in making sure that the hairstylist is being recognized for the work that they do, not just an editorial stylist. You know what I mean? Which I think is amazing. And I think, you know, in Australia, we're still getting there. I don't think we're at the point that you guys are, or what you're done with behind the chair, but we're getting there.
Peter from Chelsea Haircutters, you know, I remember he came to
I love him.
Yeah, I love him too. Our BTC house in LA. And what was really funny was some of the guys came over, Tran came over, and we were, like, having fire in the backyard, like in the back of the house. And I'm waiting for a girl by the name of Chelsea, and they're like, I'm bringing Chelsea Haircutters. And I'm like, oh, great, I've never met her. And Matt's giving me so I'm like, where's Chelsea? Like, he's like, and then this is Peter, and I'm like, where's Chelsea? And they're like, well, what? And I'm like, I didn't even know it was a guy. So Peter and I, we've definitely had those conversations about how you know, how commercial hair is was not as respected, and you know, there are those early adopters that have to get through that in the country that they're in, but they ultimately have the last laugh. I mean, to be fair, they really do.
My
feels
first
kind.
client for today has actually arrived,
Oh, good.
and my salon's filling up. So I think I might
Yay.
have to go.
We're so glad that your salon is filling up. This has been absolutely such a pleasure.
So good. I
Let me
love
tell
the
you.
business chat. I love it. I'm
I
all
love it
for
too.
talking about business. It's like way better than COVID.
Yeah. Oh my God, so much better. So this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, I'm so happy. You're so smart. You're so ambitious, and you put everything into it. And there's just nothing that I love to talk to a young business owner that just so believes in his dream and has all that passion. So
Thank you.
congratulations for all your success, and
Thank
look
you.
forward to meeting you one of these days in person. And
You'll meet me
thanks for
soon, I
sharing this
promise.
time with all of
As soon
us.
as these
And,
borders are open.
yeah, and good luck to you out in Australia, and stay safe. Okay.
Thanks, Mary. Take
Lots
care.
of love. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You guys, was he awesome or what? Oh my gosh. He was like amazing. I enjoyed that. There's nothing I like more than really, really innovative business owners that, that are just going to do everything that it takes to be able to be their best in their space. So anyway, I don't know. You guys have any questions on what you just learned at all? Anything that anybody wants to have a conversation with? I've got a couple of minutes, about 10 minutes. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Go back and watch that first one because he talked a lot about culture, which I think is incredibly important. And I can't wait to learn more about him. And also, the biggest thing that you can do, obviously, when you're building a brand is to be different. It's not to be, so Lori, don't worry, it's all saved. And then you can save this one. He's a salon owner in Australia. He has 8 salons. We originally were talking about how COVID has affected him, but he was so genius and 30 years old, started his first salon when he was 22 years old, the top salons in Australia. And he's starting now with 8 locations across all of Australia, and incredibly successful business. So it was really, 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 Samir, before you go books. What does that mean, Mary? Hi, Mary. How are you? Yeah, he was really great. And I just know the one thing that I would say to you guys right now before I go is, and I think that that's the cool thing. I think we're, the thing that was really great in talking to him is that he, and it's what he said in the very beginning. And it's just sort of like doing a shout out to all the salon owners out there who I think have been more affected by this than pretty much anybody else. As he said, he's put 8 years into building a salon. He's put every dollar he's had. He's way in debt. And he takes, his business seriously because he also employs over 100 people. So the thing is that, people, when I keep seeing people saying, that somebody's trying to open their business back up because they're being greedy or whatever, is not, if you're that person having that conversation, you're not a salon owner. Because people, when you go into business for yourself, you don't get to go home at night. You never get to go home at night. Literally, you are thinking about your business 100% of the time. You go home at night, you worry about your business. And I just, want to do a shout out to all of those salon owners out there that I know are really, really struggling with what's happening and wondering about whether or not you're going to make it. And I know there's been a lot of negative press back and forth between opening and not opening. And I understand both sides. I really, really do. I understand it's scary. And I also understand that people, that salon owners recognize that if they don't go back to work, they're not going to have a salon to go back to. So, and it's very real. And they've only been out for a month. They didn't even have to close down, but they closed down. And that was just really, really insightful. I thought that he was great. Okay, a couple of books that you guys want. And if you hate to read, then definitely get them on, what is it called? The one that you can listen to. Culture Code is the best book that you guys can read about building your culture. And I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I recently read it. I've read probably 350 books over the last, probably more than that, to tell you the truth, probably more than that. Audio, thank you. I think it's called Audible. and so that one I really highly recommend. And that will just kind of get you back into, you know, how you're going to build your culture in the salon. And I think that he was absolutely right. It's just always about being honest about what your culture is, honest about your expectations, and being super consistent. And it's been a tough time for everyone. It doesn't matter who it is. So the other thing I think is that's really, really important is if you guys know who Brene Brown is, I would say her book called Leading, oh my God, Daring Greatly is her main book. And then there's one that's about leading with vulnerability. And I'm trying to remember that, but it's Brene Brown. I can't think of the exact name. That's an amazing book as well about being vulnerable, being open with your team, and Dare to Lead. Thank you. You guys are so helpful. Dare to Lead. It's an incredible book. I found it just insanely fascinating. If you want a life book, Daring Greatly was awesome. She also has a video that is an audio that's 6 hours long. That was actually and it's something about embracing vulnerability. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's on Audible. It is the best, almost the best 6 hours that I've ever had. And it talks about different kinds of people, how vulnerability needs to play a really big part in our lives. And that one is an amazing book. And if you don't know Brene Brown, like definitely get to know her. Just listen to some of her podcasts, listen to her TED Talk. She's amazing. And then the other one that changed my life completely, like it was a total life changer for me, I've read it multiple times, is the Motivation Manifesto, written by Brendan Burchard. And Motivation Manifesto, I gave it out, I think at Christmas, 2 years in a row to hundreds of people. And it is, it's a life-changing book about, you know, owning your life. It's not like Who Moved Your Cheese. It's definitely more elevated than that. Like, that's a great book, but it's definitely as you're sort of like, you know, past that. And I think it's such a good book now because it's also about embracing fear. And Motivation Manifesto, it's about embracing fear, trying to understand where it comes from, embracing the good people in your life that want to see you succeed, and getting rid of the people in your life that don't want to see you succeed. And, you know, and trying to get rid of the toxicity. But it's written, it's like, I feel like it's divine intervention. It's that book is that good. And I'm a pretty tough critic when it comes to books because I've read so many. So that one is really good. And yes, Brene Brown has an amazing TED Talk. Start there and then keep looking at some of the different talks that she's had because I think it's really, really good. So, hey, Sonia, how are you? I hope you're holding up. Are you in Mexico or are you in California? So those are some of my favorite books. And I've got a bunch of them over there that I'm reading, and I kind of get bored pretty easily with books. So when I have a good one, I love it. There's also a book that's called, and it's some of the stuff that Jay was just talking about being different and not doing what everybody else does. There's a great book that was written about 10 years ago it's called Different. It was written by a Harvard business professor, and know that a lot of the case studies that are in it are from like, you know, 10, 12, 13 years ago, but you'll know the case studies and you'll understand them. And it is so, so good. And then the final one is called The Culting of Brands. And it looks at how brands like how brands need to behave like cults, not in a bad way, but in a good way, the way that cults bring you in and they make you feel a part of something. And it's actually an incredible book that I read a long, long time ago. And so I think you'll really enjoy that one too. The Gifts of Imperfection, I have read that. And then Originals is also a really, really great book. Her name is Brene Brown, Brene, Brene Brown. I know my cat just sort of like keeps doing that, just back and forth. So yeah, I think it's really important that you guys are spending time reading, listening, taking walks, planning, notebook. I keep it with me, guys, like all the time. And I have notes everywhere. And every time I'm thinking about things I need to focus on right now, because our business has taken a major hit as well. And you've got to pivot, right? So one of the most important things that you can do while you guys are like, we're all in this situation, is start preparing for what all this is going to look like. And I'm going to give you guys a couple of key things and then let you know. I just want to prepare you guys for a couple of things, and then I'm going to go and take my nighttime walk. So, and I was saying a couple days ago, like I'm going to release I keep this by my bed. Is that, yeah, very, very Italian. I keep this by my bed. So my best ideas come in the middle of the night. And my best ideas also come from reading stories about what's going on. So what is Mary reading right now? How is Mary, what am I, like, listen to me, like I'm talking about third person. What am I doing right now to prepare my business for what's going to happen? Okay. So what do you think I'm reading right now? And what would you be reading right now? What would you be paying attention to? What news would you be paying attention to? So I'm behind the chair. We have advertising business for our clients, right? All of those clients aren't doing any business right now because you guys aren't in a salon. And what I love is many of them aren't doing business with us right now because they're also saving that money to give to their employees. No problem. I totally understand that. But I've also kept all of my employees on board because I saved for a rainy day. I went through 2008. I know how bad it can be. And so I can survive. And I made a commitment to my team the day that everybody left and went home and took their computers, and we put them in Ubers with their screens, their desktop screens, and send them home. And I said, your rent payment is my rent payment, and your college loan is my college loan. And I take this really, really seriously. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do everything I can to keep everybody employed, which we still have after 7 weeks of this, and we've lost millions of dollars of business. But the point is that we can't just sit there waiting for it to come back, right? We have to think about, where the business is going to go. And you guys need to be thinking about the exact same thing. What is going to happen? What's happening in your market? How are you going to prepare to go back? And what's the market going to look like? So let's take an example, right? So if you're in a salon and you charge less than $75 a haircut, which many of you do, you're going to have to start thinking about some really serious things, right? You got to start thinking about how are you going to go back? And so not only are you going to have to and there's a lot of information. Behind the Chair has given so much information. You guys just go to behindthechair.com, go to where it says coronavirus support, and you'll see I know Lauren told me today, our editorial director, there's over 40 articles. We've got the state-by-state opening, and there's been over 1 million views and over 50,000 downloads from all the downloads we put together for you guys. So we've been thinking in advance about all the signage you need in salons, and we've made that all for you. So this is what I want you guys to start thinking about, right? So I'm in the advertising business and in the online digital business for education. So what am I going to be focusing on right now? I'm going to be focusing on what's happening in digital education. I'm going to be focusing on our shows happening in different parts of the country. I'm going to be looking at Texas, and I'm going to be paying attention to what the governor in Texas is saying. I'm going to be looking at the numbers because our big show is in Texas. I'm going to be reading everything I can about trade shows and about trade shows going online, right? So what are you guys going to be reading right now? What you need to be focusing on is your economics. You need to focus on what's happening in your state, and you need to be listening to people that are opening up already and thinking about what is it that they're doing to prepare so you can start to gather what's going to work for you. And so we have a bunch of guidelines on that as well. So let's start talking about your business for just a second. First of all, you got to think about your square footage in your salon, right? How much square footage do you have in your salon, and are your chairs 6 feet apart? In a lot of salons, they're not 6 feet apart, but a lot of salons don't have a complete number of, your chairs aren't full, right? You don't have that as many hairdressers. Now, if you do have as many hairdressers, this is one of the things I want you to think about. There are hairdressers that don't want to come back to work because they're afraid, and there are hairdressers that do want to come back to work because they need to make a living and they've got families to provide for. So everybody's saying that, if you open back up and you call them back in, that they can't get unemployment anymore. Here's the thing. Talk to your staff and find out who wants to come back to work and who doesn't. You can leave them. The ones that are afraid to come back, don't call them back. They can stay on unemployment. The ones that do want to come back, they're going to get the extra hours, right? So people keep saying, I can't come back to work. I'm going to have half the clients, half the hours. That doesn't need to be that way. So I think what is most important is you got two options, right? You're going to have to bring, unless you're a salon that's already 6 feet apart, then you've got that. But let's say that you're not 6 feet apart, right? that you're 4 feet apart or 5 feet apart. It doesn't mean that you don't open. It means that you've got to think about how you're going to stagger your team, right? Stagger your hours and stagger your days. Now, here's the thing is you've got 7 days of the week. Yes, when your lights are on, right? When your lights are on, it still costs you money. But here's the thing, like you've got to figure out how you're going to get back to as much percentage as you can and get the clients taken care of that need to come in. And the way you're going to have to do that is you're going to have to stagger your team and stagger the hours. So let's say that you're normally open 5 days a week and you've got to think about where your chairs are, right? So what you have to do is stagger them. So let's say that a particular stylist is going to work 4 days a week and the other one's going to work 3 days a week because you have to be 6 feet apart. So if you are 6 feet apart, you're fine. But if you're not 6 feet apart, you're either going to have to take the chair out, get 6 feet apart, right? Or push them, whatever your situation is, or you're going to have to stagger your team. So the best thing to do is to think about who your clients are, think about what the services are, and then start thinking about how to stagger. Is it better to stagger based on service? So I'm not going to answer this for you. I'm just going to tell you. Is it better to stagger based on services? And I don't know the answer to that. Is it better to stagger based on services, shorter services, longer services? Are they done on a different day? Or is it better to stagger your team? So if you need to stagger your team, then you're like, okay, you're going to work these 3 days and you're going to work the full day. Or you're going to work these 4 days and you're going to work the full day. And that way you can get all of your clients in a 7-day week. Yes, you have to, these are based, like we know that. You got to wear a mask, you got to wear a face shield. I think that's going to be really hard. And again, some of the key things, as you guys probably know, behindthechair.com has provided you a ton of downloadables and print. You can print them. If you go to the BTC forum, they're all there. So if you go to behindthechair.com/forum, you can get all these, like, there's really fun ones as well that basically says, I love you, but I can't hug you. Like all of these things that are completely free to you, our design team has made them for you. And it's like all the touch points where they need to have like a little sign outside, a sign at the front desk. And then of course, a checklist for all of the various things that you need to be thinking about. We worked with Barbicide on a checklist. Good, you've downloaded all of them. I think we've had 50,000 downloads in a week. I mean, it's been crazy. So please use them, download them. They're free. Our design team and our editorial team have been working overtime trying to create all of this for you guys. So please use them. Time management. So time management, the first thing, there's been different strategies because a lot of people have been asking us about how you go back and reschedule your clients as well, right? So some people have very different strategies. Some have thrown all the appointments out the window and literally started back up, and now they're rescheduling from the time that people are coming in. Chris Jones had a great idea that he shared with me where and I love it. I think it's really amazing. Where he had an idea about a triage sort of unit. So like it's a sense of triage. So if you've got men that are going back to work and they need to get their hair cut, like they're first in, you need women who need their root touch-ups, but balayage is going to wait because the balayage is not going to be as dire of a situation. So thinking about how you're going to reschedule. Other people, because they've rescheduled the whole year already, or they've rescheduled several months, they're maintaining those appointments for those clients because they're already on the book. It's kind of like an airline that if you miss your flight, kind of too bad, too sad, and then you have to figure out how to get on another flight afterwards. So that's one of the things that that they're doing, but they're adding, but some salons are adding extra hours and extra days. So even if now it's time for you to get in, and now you can add those extra hours and the extra days in. And I think that that's going to be the most important thing to do, because yes, your expenses are big if you've got to have, staff in there for 7 days, but they're not as big as not having staff in there the extra 2 or 3 days and the extra hours. So think about, opening earlier, staying open later, and then staggering your workforce in between those, right? And then because that's really honestly the most important thing that you can do is to try to get your revenue up as quickly as you possibly can. You've got a lot of clients that are coming back to the salon, no question. But the one thing that you've got to keep in mind, I keep seeing people writing about, I'm going to raise my prices. That is not a good idea. because remember that your clients are out of work as well, right? So don't just think you're the only one that's out of work. Your clients are out of work too. And the best thing that you can do is reach out to them and find out how they're feeling. And the survey that we just did is coming back. That survey that we did had over 10,000 of you guys fill it out. And the crazy thing about it is we learned a lot of information about obviously who wants to go back to work and who doesn't want to go back to work. But hold on, I'm just getting rid of, there we go. And who doesn't want to go back to work. And then also how many people feel, how many salon owners feel that their staff members are going to come back or their clients are not going to come back. And what was interesting is about 65% of everyone surveyed, of all the salon owners surveyed, actually this was for all 10,000 of the hairdressers surveyed, not just the salon owners, 66 or 67%, and we're going to release this information over the next couple of days, said that they felt that they would have a significant number of clients that would not be coming back. So the thing that's really important is think about your clients. Don't raise the prices. Yes, if you have extra bleach or whatever and you feel like you can do that, and that's a commonality about how much bleach you're using, then go ahead and do it. But I would say please don't raise your prices, and because your clients are in the same situation, they're going to have a really bad taste in their mouth, and that's just not. I just don't think that that's a good idea. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about the clients that have been with you for a really long time. Is you just don't. I don't think that we're in the long game, not the short game. So just recognize that they might be in the same situation as well. So we're going to release the findings of it. So here's some of the things that I think are going to happen, you guys, and I just want you to be kind of prepared for it. As I was saying, I did kind of a state of the industry, and here's some of the things I'm concerned with. And I do think we're going to have a lot of salon closings, unfortunately, and obviously it makes me really sad. We had such a great economy prior to this that even a business that's not well run can still make a profit in a really great economy. But in a bad economy that we're about to go into, I just want to prepare you guys for the fact that it's very likely that you're going to work twice as hard for half as much money. And if you haven't been in a recession before, I've been in 2 of them, you just need to get prepared to know that you're kind of going to war with the economy, right? And you just got to get into your mind right now that I'm going to war with the economy. I'm going to pull out all the stops and I'm going to fight. And that's the most important thing you can do right now, is just fight for the survival of your business, fight for the survival of, of your dream. And guess what? You're just going to have to fight. And it's really just as simple as that. And COVID's not going away anytime soon. You definitely are putting yourself at risk. There's no question. But as we know, by the woman that went back to work in Dallas, unfortunately, she needed to feed her family, and I'm really glad they let her out of jail. I don't know everything. I don't know much about it. I just saw the headlines. But everybody's going to make it through, but not all salons may make it through. So that's the key thing. And I was talking, earlier, I think this is what I think could happen. First of all, if you have a smaller salon, the most important thing that you can do right now is make sure that your client feels safe. Make sure that you're sharing every single possible thing that you can about the way that you're going to disinfect, the way that and share all of it. Don't be embarrassed by, you're going to have to take your temperature. You're going to have to, they want to know that you're doing that. So it's really important that you are sending an email out to them, that you're putting it in your Instagram, that these are all the rules that we have. And they want to know that, because here's the thing. I believe that clients they're going to go to suites, but suites are going to have to definitely level up as well in terms of disinfectant, in terms of signage, all of those things. Suites are going to have to level up too. But better salons are going to get bigger, because what I think is going to end up happening is I think that clients are going to feel safer in a really well-established salon, because they're going to know that salon is taking the precautions that they need to. And so the better salons that are out there, and also, those are the ones, those big salons, and I don't mean big salons like chains, I'm saying like better luxury salons. They're the ones that are prepared. They're ready to go. They've been out shopping. they've not been licking their wounds at home, you know, waiting for this to go away. They've been out shopping. They've been out trying to figure out where they're getting masks from, where they're getting, you know, capes from, where they're getting gloves from. They're trying to figure out everything that they can. They're figuring out the disinfectant services. Like, they're not sitting there going, government pay me, because they know damn well that the government's probably not going to give any more money. And the fact that we got $600 a week on top, that's amazing. That actually is unprecedented. It's never happened ever in history in America. And so they're just trying to get their business, you know, to survive. And so they're out there like making shit happen. So I think that that's what's really important. The most important thing is, if you're preparing, make sure that your client knows that you're preparing, because right now your clients want to come back, but the first, you get one shot, guys, to get this right. And I really believe this. You get one shot to get this right with your client coming back. If this is a new client, or if it's an existing client that is, you know, has maybe only been a couple of times, but I believe you get one shot to make this right. And if you don't do the disinfectant, if you're not keeping your mask on, you're not making them keep their mask on, if you're not making another client keep their mask on, and they're not seeing you abide by the rules that you've made for yourself, then I think that you're going to have to realize that you made a mistake. Do not open until you truly believe that you've got everything in place to open, because you get one shot to get this right, right? And then once they feel confident and comfortable, then you're going to be okay. I really believe that, because this is, we're all like, you know, somebody was saying to me today that it felt like he was going to kindergarten for the first time, like that he was starting all over again, and he was going back into the salon. He starts again tomorrow, and he felt like he was going back to school again on the first day of school. So you've got one shot to get this right with your customers coming in. And if they don't feel safe for whatever reason, they're going to go to a salon, and generally that's going to be a bigger salon that they know has all of these like safety measures built in. Now, bigger salons have a lot more people, right? So that's the thing. They have a lot more people. So you've got some people that won't even go back to the bigger salons because they're going to be afraid of the bigger salons, because there's so many people there. So I think the most important thing that you can do is to be DMing your customers, putting it on Instagram, exactly what your plans are. We have a ton of plans for you guys laid out on all of the articles. So please go use the articles. And so these are some of the key things that I think you guys really, really need to keep in mind. Number one, right now is the right time to be reaching out to your clients and to be asking them how they are, to ask them how their hair is, and then most importantly, ask them how they are. Do they still have their job? Like, are they okay? Because this is also going to help you gauge, do they have money? Can they spend money? Are they going to get a root touch up, or are they going to be able to do the full balayage? Like, so I think it's really important to be communicating with your clients right now and asking them, how are they? How is their hair? So you're having that communication, but also trying to understand, are you okay? Did you lose your job? Like, are they in retail? Remember, 1 out of 4 people are in retail, and, you know, and most of retail lost their job, right? So that is really, really important. Then ask them, what is going to make you comfortable to come back, right? So what is going to make you comfortable to come back into the salon? And that is a really, really important thing. What can we do to make sure that you're going to be comfortable when you walk back through the door? Because we're going to do, these are all the things. I'm Barbicide certified. I'm, you know, this is what we're doing. You know, everybody's got to stay in the car. We're not allowing any walk-ins, you know, clients, we're going to be disinfecting between each client. We're going to be 6 feet apart. You know, we're going to either be blow drying or we're not. Like, get them up to speed on, there's no magazines, there's no coffee. These are the reasons why. So where the coffee area was, you know, it's a little sign that says we want to keep you safe. And so that's why we can't provide you coffee, or the magazines don't keep you safe. So communication is key right now, because if they know you don't have magazines and you don't have coffee because you're trying to keep them safe, maybe they didn't think about that. You know what I mean? Like, I actually went to shake somebody's hand that came to my house a couple days ago, one of a worker here. And I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot. Like, I'm not supposed to do that. So, and had he not, like, I put my hand out and you could just see this look on his face, and I had forgotten, right? So just know that you need to be really, really thoughtful with your clients right now and make them feel comfortable. The second thing is also trying to help them understand that you're trying to rebook 10 weeks of clients. So this is my recommendation. Now, there's lots of different ways that you can reschedule. My recommendation is there's lots of different ways that you can do it, But the biggest thing, and I know this is going to sound maybe bad, but it's not, it's your business. Think about who your best clients are. Like, who are your best clients, you know? So yes, you have to think about who needs it the most, but you also have to think about who your best clients are that are always there with you. Make sure they get in right away. You know what I mean? Like, make sure that they get a chance to get in, but then they also understand, are you washing hair? Some salons aren't. Are you drying hair? Some salons aren't. It's really important that you explain that and they don't just find it out when they get there that you're not going to blow dry their hair, because they're going to feel like, well, that's really weird, you know? Also, you don't want them bringing in water, right? Don't let them, like, so you want to get them in and out, but don't bring them in, like, because then they're going to take their mask off, they're going to drink water, they're going to put their mask back on, and then, you know what I mean? So it's important to also think about, like, the whole action that's happening. What are they going to do with their jacket or their purse? Like, think about putting that on something, a ledge, wherever. You can't go put that in a common area, right? Think about where they're going to sit the second that they come in. You don't want them to. You want them to come directly to your chair, and you want to guide them in, right? Maybe you're even both washing your hands together over in a sink, so they see that. And then as you're doing a consultation, yes, of course, you want to pay attention to them, but you're also wiping things down, like literally right in front of them, so they know that you're taking this really, really seriously, right? And then the other thing is, some people are not even selling retail right in the location. They're actually sending it to their house. So they're shipping it through the back. I don't know if that's as effective, but the thing is you can certainly ask them what they want. You know, you can take it off of the shelf and provide it to them, right? But we don't want any guests taking retail off the shelf. So you're going to have to think about that too, making sure that you know exactly what it is that they usually use, and that you're also prescribing that and recommending that for them. When they come into the salon, it's also important to know, have you decided in advance on how they're going to pay? Are they going to use a credit card? Are you going to charge them in advance? Are you going to charge them at the end? Are you going to do it through a cash register? Are you going to allow them to be able to pay cash as a tip or not? So remember that if they don't pay, if they pay cash as a tip, then you're going to, you know, I'm not going to say anything about the government, but you know what I mean. So you got to think about all of these things, you know, when the client's coming in. Some people are washing hair. Some are asking them to bring, to come in with their hair wet, right? So I think that's really important. A little bag is great. So if you have a little bag that you can put their, all of their items in, that's awesome as well. Costs money. So Nick Rocha was on earlier today. One of the ideas that he had, which I thought was really a great idea, is at the end of the service, and also to share this with them in advance, that there will be a $5 fee for a cleaning fee, or not, sorry, like a health fee, right? So it's like a healthcare fee or a safety fee. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. So adding $5 on the back end of this, that way it can pay for the extra disinfectant. It can pay for the little bag. It can pay for the mask that that your client needs. And I love that. It's a safety fee, $5. I don't think that your clients are going to be upset by that, and it helps take that, you know, away from the additional cost, because it's going to be expensive to be doing all of these other things. The most important thing to remember is these are investments, right? This is an investment into your future, and this is not going to go on forever. The most important thing that you can do right now is keep your clients, or somebody else will take them. And I hate to say it that way, but keep your clients. And like I said, you get one. It sounds so awful to say that, but they need to get their hair done. If you're not open, they're going to go somewhere else. It just is what it is. They might wait for you. They might go get a root touch-up somewhere. They might get it online. Who knows? But the point is that you get one chance to get this right and to make them feel comfortable. And if something goes wrong during the service, guess what? Everybody's human. And it's really important that you explain that. We're all learning. We're all trying to figure this out. But the thing is if your client loves you and your client knows that you're working really hard to protect her, that she's going to come back. The other thing is it's really, really important that you protect yourself. So your client needs to, you know, have their temperature taken, right? Beforehand. It's going to cut me off, you guys, in a minute and 50 seconds. Temperature taken before they come into the salon. That's important. Everybody's doing it, so don't feel like it's a weird thing. Everyone is doing it. And make sure that all of your hairdressers are getting their temperature taken as well. So yeah, the $5 fee I think is great. Yes, let them know in advance. They'll appreciate that, because it means that you've been thinking about it, and that you're supplying a lot of disinfecting and cleaning to make sure that they're safe. And I think that they'll really appreciate that. You guys, it's going to cut me off in 1 minute and 22 seconds. If this doesn't save, because it never seems to, I will I'll go back, videotape this, and then I'll put it on IGTV. I gotta take a breath now. So anyway, it's been great to see you guys. Maybe I'll be back a little bit later. We'll see. It's almost dark. I missed my my walk today. But anyway, and I might be back a little bit later after I get my walk in. Just trying to keep you guys safe and try and get you back into business. And for everybody out there, we care so much, and we're doing everything we can, to try to help everyone. And it's important to keep yourself safe, but it's also important to get back to business because we want to save your businesses. So we love you guys, and maybe I'll see you a little bit later tonight, okay? And we can talk some more. I'll take some questions and maybe get some of you guys on live. So see you soon. Have a great night, and hopefully I'll see you a bit later. Bye, guys.